Hey everybody, it's GauntletX, and welcome to the second Outlaws of Thunder Junction Arena Open. The Arena Open is the highest stakes open entry event on Magic Arena, where at the hefty price of 5,000 gems or 25,000 gold, anyone can compete for the chance of making it to Day 2, where you can face off in best of 3 drafts with potential cash prizes on the line. Day 1 is going to be best of 1 Outlaws of Thunder Junction sealed, so without further ado, let's cross our fingers and hope for some good pulls in the sealed lottery. Alright, we have opened a lot of rares, but that is going to happen frequently in this format. We have several super weak rares, but a few really powerful ones. We've got the Seraphic Steed for green-white mounts. We've got the Stinger Back Terror for just a gigantic threat in any red deck. And that's it for really good rares. Satoru can be a decent card range in the right deck. Fibblethip pretty much always ends up being too slow, as does Omen Path Journey and the Key to the Vault, and Void Rend is super narrow. So a lot of pretty weak rares, but I like the Steed a lot. I like the Stinger Back Terror a lot. If we're exactly black-red and only black-red, then a cool can be okay. If we're really deep into black, Insatiable Avarice can be great, but very infrequently are you going to be that deep into black that you can cast a triple black spell consistently. We'll see. I think we've got a couple really strong ways to go if we have the common and uncommon support to go with it, but it is certainly far from the strongest sealed pool I've ever seen in this format. So let's go ahead and take a look at the sealed pool as a whole, starting off with the colorless and multicolored cards. The colorless is going to show us what kind of fixing we have to put into any deck. We've got like Red Rock Sentinel can make treasure tokens really late in the game, and Silver Deputy is super filler. Don't really like either of those. I guess there's a Sterling Hound we can put in anything as a fine filler creature, but we can mostly ignore our colorless. Our colorless lands, though, are actually pretty great. Specifically, Mirage Mesa is a land that I like quite a bit, but the Conduit Pylons as well. If we want to splash in a lot of stuff, then this is serviceable mana fixing as well. So having the 2 Pylons and a Mirage Mesa, plus we have a green-white, red-black, white-black, and white-blue land. It's actually a good chunk of fixing here. For the multicolored spells, just some pretty powerful multicolored uncommons can be just as big of a reason to go into a specific color pair as some rares can be. So we like to check them out. Doc Orlock, not really. It's going to be a little too build-aroundy for most sealed pools. It's not really going to do enough. Hypothesis, although, is excellent removal. That also draws some cards. Tyrant Scorn's excellent removal. But that's it. Yeah, that's it for the uncommon colorless spells. Just a couple pretty good removal spells is about all that we're seeing that we didn't already see out of the rares. There are quite a few multicolored rares in the sealed pool. Alright, I don't see any insanely massive reasons to be in particular colors outside of our top 2 rares, which are Seraphic Steed and the big Stinger Back Terror out of red. So green, white, and red are the colors that I really want to lean towards if we can, but we are going to check out all of our commons and uncommons and make sure that we're not missing on anything that is particularly powerful. So for white, we have just exceptional removal here. So this is a good support color for any main color that doesn't have enough removal. All of these creatures are playable as well. One of them is excellent, the Prairie Dog. The rest are like good filler. Sterling Keykeeper, Double Bighorn, I like these as filler. Townsfolk's a little more mediocre filler, but they're all super playable creatures. And then yeah, the removal spells are great. Journey to Nowhere and Mystical Tether and Lasso by the Law. Plus Take Up the Shield for an excellent combat trick. So white, really good support color, ideally for an aggressive main color that's maybe a little bit low on removal. For blue, we certainly have a high quantity of blue cards, but there are a lot of mediocre and narrow blue spells in this format, and that is what a lot of this sealed pool is showing off as well. Yeah, like Fleeting Reflection, Key to the Vault, Fibblethip, Shackle Slinger. Really mediocre stuff for the most part, even though there's a lot of it. Just going to skip right over to black here, which doesn't have a ton of cards, and the ones that we are seeing are pretty narrow, pretty mediocre. Yeah, black is just not good in this sealed pool. For actually good cards, we have like Consuming Ashes is pretty great. Mourner's Surprise can be pretty good. Desert Stew is pretty great. And then the Avarice is pretty good, but obviously if we're not playing a ton of black spells, then Avarice gets quite a bit weaker. And we don't really want to play a ton of black spells here because it's going to involve playing a lot of filler stuff that we don't even have good synergy for, like Boneyard Desecrator and Link Breaker and Rakish Crew. Just not a good sealed pool for black. For red, we don't have a particularly high quantity of cards, but we have good aggressive 2-drops with 2 of the 2-mana 2/2s with haste, the Coyote and the Roadrunner. And then, of course, we have the excellent Stingerback Terror to top off the curve. Some mediocre removal with some Thunder Salvos in the middle there, but you run what you have to play your good rares sometimes, and that is what rare looks like as a color here. Or sorry, what red looks like as a color here. It's like a you do what you gotta do kind of color. Like, there's enough here to get us into red to play the Stingerback Terror, but the Stingerback Terror is the only, like, reason to be red. And last but certainly not least here, green has excellent mana fixing in this sealed pool. So we can go like green-white at the core. That way we can play our 2-mana green-white rare and we can just splash in the Stingerback Terror. We can plot it for a single red mana. So it is definitely splashable. And green has ridiculously good fixing in this sealed pool. We have the Green Blade grabbing any basic or desert. We have the Spinewoods Armadillo grabbing any basic or desert. And we have 2 Hard Bristle Bandits, which are adding a mana of any color. So green's a really, really good core color in this sealed pool. And I think white was our best secondary color as a good support color. Plus, it gives us access to our strongest rare, the Seraphic Steed. So really love green-white splash in that red here. And I think I'm just going to lock in, honestly. Oops. I guess I didn't cut any white cards yet. Let's see. Cut the Lullabies. And then... Wait, what happened? How did this happen? How did I accidentally drop all the green cards except the Paladin? Alright, I'm just going to manually do it. The clicking buttons part, the clicking the colors is not working out for us right now. Alright, so let's redo this. We want that, we want that, we want just the Stingerback Terror. And then multicolored, we want just the Steed. Okay, and I believe we're good. But let's make sure. Not playing Coyote, Peddler, any of this red stuff on the splash except for the bomb rare. We've got the Mesa, double Conduit Pylons that go into the deck. Unfortunately, no, or just one on-colored desert, one Creosote Heath. It's fine. Yeah, I don't think we're playing any of these colorless cards in this deck either. Unless we need to cut something that's even more filler. I'm going to take another look at the multicolored, primarily looking at the Prosperity postcards, because it can be kind of hard to tell what colors they are. So just making sure I'm not missing anything on color. Yeah. Okay. Now we go ahead and cut our 4 most filler cards, like a Tornado here. What's the creature count at? 16? If these creatures are all good, I can just keep them all in. And I don't think there's any filler creatures in here, honestly. They do look like they're all good. Yeah, these creatures are all good. So we'll cut Tornado. We definitely cut Omen Path Journey. And then I don't love Thunder Lasso or Ariet's Lullaby. Actually, Bovine Intervention I think is the worst of these by quite a bit. Giving your opponent anything back when you're casting removal is quite bad. Removal's already just a 1-for-1, and this is a format filled with like 2-for-1s. So if you're making it even worse than a 1-for-1 where you're spending a hold card to deal with like 75% of what their card's doing, where like, yeah, you kill their bomb rare, but you've really just mitigated it, made it still a 2/2, so they still got some value out of the card. You can fall really behind doing stuff like that. So I'm probably going to drop Intervention for sure. And then between Lullaby and Lasso, I mean, I guess this auto attaches and we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 2-mana creatures. Might not be terrible to run a one-of copy of here. Yeah, we can just run like 1 Lasso, 1 Lullaby. It's fine. So one thing I did mention earlier is that with double pylons and Mesa, the fixing is actually like really, really good. So if we really need to splash anything else, we can, like if we have another powerful bomb. But I think we have enough removal in here. We don't need to splash more. We have Lasso, Tether, Journey, and Lullaby. But let's just take a peek at what we could be splashing in. We make the mana base a little bit worse, but we could splash in blue off of Lonely Arroyo, or black off of Courtyard, and those would be somewhat easy. We'd need both blue and black to play Satoru or Tyrant Scorn. We need 2 different splash colors for Hypothesis. We'd have to hit our splashed in red and add in blue as another splash. Abrupt Decay would be adding just black as a splash to get that in there. So I guess if we really want more removal, Abrupt Decay is an option to splash in. Throwing like just Concealed Courtyard, maybe 1 Swamp into the deck. That would be okay. If I'm super hurting for removal, I can also just play a Trick Shot. Thunder Salvo, an option as well. Was there any splashable black removal? There's Desert's Dew. We have 4 deserts in the deck right now. Splashing black doesn't actually give us any more deserts. I guess we can play Jagged Barrens instead of a basic swamp, because every card in our deck that can search for a basic land can search for a desert instead. So we can go to 5 deserts in the main deck. That would be an okay splash. And then Jagged Barrens is actually better than a swamp here, because this is both of our splash colors, splashed in black and splashed in red. Helps get the Terror or the Desert's Dew. I kind of don't hate that. And then we get to play a Desert's Dew instead of like a Thunder Lasso or an Ariet's Lullaby. Because just a single Jagged Barrens, and now we have... Because I'm already only wanting to play really 1 mountain anyway, now instead of playing 1 mountain, I play 1 Jagged Barrens, and that's going to give us access to the Terror or the Desert's Dew, and we still have Mesa, double pylons, and Barrens. That's 4 red sources for our 1 red card and 4 black sources for our 1 black card, as well as the ways to tutor them out. That might be the most reasonable removal spell to splash in, the Desert's Dew here. We obviously can't do the double black Consuming Ashes, even though that is better removal up front. I think Desert's Dew is our most splashable removal spell. If we wanted to do that, technically we could do Abrupt Decay instead, and that would be just as easy to splash in because green is one of the core colors of our deck, but I feel like the Desert's Dew is going to be better throughout the game because it's going to kill larger creatures later. We can use it as a combat trick to help do that. The Abrupt Decay is just against the small stuff, and Sealed does tend to often be about the big stuff later in the game, especially when you're splashing in the removal. Obviously, we're more likely to hit our splash color later in the game when we've drawn more cards, we've drawn more lands. We can't reliably have one of our few black sources on turn 2 or 3 to kill their small stuff. So I don't hate this. I think I'm going to throw in Desert's Dew alongside the Jagged Barrens here. I could even play a Lonely Arroyo over a Plains just to up the desert count for Outcaster, Greenblade, and Desert's Dew. I don't know if I 100% should be doing that, but I will. Oh yeah, and we get to play Concealed Courtyard as well. So the black's actually even easier to hit than the red is. And this is a 3 mana combat trick. I'm probably just getting a Thunder Lasso. But I guess, again, I did just add another removal spell so we can cut out the Lullaby and still have Journey, Desert's Dew, Mystical Tether, Lasso. Solid. When I say lasso, I mean lassoed by the law. I'm not trying to count Thunder Lasso as removal. It is certainly not removal. It's only good on the aggressive, but it is pretty dang good on the aggressive. I don't know, I'll go for the aggressive spell over the defensive one. We'll try the Lasso over the Lullaby, but as we play our games, we might think the other would have been a lot better, and then we can swap things around if we want. I think those are definitely the last kind of playables that are going into this deck. I think the creature curve is pretty great. All of the removal's pretty great. And we just need to make sure the mana's decent here. We need white and green over anything else. We're currently sitting at 6 green sources, 6 white sources, 1, 2, 3, 3 plus black sources. I kind of already said I only need 1 Jagged Barrens for both Stingerback Terror and Desert Stew, so we cut the mountain, we cut the swamp, we add another plains, add another forest. That puts us up to 7 of each of those, with double conduit pylons and Mirage Mesa as any color. And it is pretty much equal. We have 11 green cards, 11 white cards, but our green cards give us 2 Hard Bristle Bandits, which add a mana of any color, a Stable Master, which can mana fix us for our mounts, Outcaster Greenblade, which grabs whatever land we need, and Armadillo, which grabs whatever land we need. So I think we want to go top heavy on green over white here, and go to at least 8 green sources, which means going 8-6 as the splits. And I'm pretty okay with that, with the amount of green fixing in this deck. So 8 green sources, 6 white sources, 3 of anything, which makes it maybe even more like 11-9. And then our 1 of Jagged Barrens with all of the any color cards for our splashes. I'm into it. I think we're going to go ahead and call it a deck here. Alright, here's a final look at today's deck list. We've got a really nice green-white deck here, splashing in a Stingerback Terror as a bomb rare, just a super gigantic flyer, and a Desert's Dew for a little bit more removal. We've got excellent mana to make that splash super easy, with a bunch of deserts, including many multicolored ones like Pylons and Mirage Mesa, and ways to search them out with Greenblade and Armadillo. So should be a really consistent mana base for a 2-color deck, splashing in a couple additional colors, and our creature curve can slam down some pretty beefy stuff later in the game, and it can ramp into it early with double Hard Bristle Bandit and Intrepid Stable Master as early ways to ramp up the mana curve. Again, the big stuff at the top end of the curve being a bunch of 3-4 and 4-4 Vigilances at 4 mana, and then some 5-4 Tramples, and the gigantic 7-7 Reach Ward 3. So really nice stuff throughout the creature curve, as well as a nice amount of removal here. Aided a little bit by our splash. Just a bunch of high quality spells in general with the fixing to glue it all together. Just playing the best cards in our sealed pool as you do, and we'll see how it all plays out for us as we head into the gameplay. Alright, here we are on the play for game 1. We have both of our splash colors. 3 mana 3/3 into 4 mana 3/4 Vigilance if we want here. That is a good draw, because now we get to play a better 3 mana 3/3 and save the commando to try to get some counters onto it. Slam down a 3/3 and pass here. Playing against red, white, and blue, and they start with a turn 3 Scale Storm Summoner. I would be perfectly happy to remove that. How does this Trash the Town even work? Till end of turn, target creature gains when it deals combat damage to player, draw 2 cards. So I could spend 2 mana to draw 2 if I want here, but I feel like we wait till we can dump more mana into this. So we just Mystical Tether the Summoner and save the cheaper removal for something else. But yeah, obviously they're never going to block there. I guess I should have played my land pre-combat just in case they did block, so I could dump more mana into this, but thought it was like a 0% chance anyway. I would have missed out on 2 points of damage, because I wouldn't have given the trample there, but I would have still done the 3 mana +2/+2 to the townsfolk forever. Rodeo Pyromancers, so 4 mana 3/4, it can up their mana as they get higher up the curve here. Well, I can kill the Pyromancers and trample over for a little bit with Trash the Town. Or I can just cast a Paladin or a Bighorn if they don't block. Seems fine. No block, so let's swap the Paladin here. Okay, there's Mind Raider, get 2 mana back and treasure. And then they use the rest of the mana to plot Loan Shark? What? That's kind of weird, because, I mean, they could have just cast it and drawn the card immediately. Alright. So obviously we're going to drop Paladin here. And I have 5 mana, I can do a full Trash the Town, full value. That's probably just as good as playing any other creature here. They probably will block at this point. I doubt the 3/2's that valuable to them. They won't. Alright, well, never mind. Guess if they never block, I never need to Trash the Town. I don't need to Journey anything. If I really did, I could Commando plus Journey. I think at this point with them at 10, I'd rather get just immediate damage on the board with the Bighorn than plot another creature here. So let's make sure this thing is not summoning sick next turn and it can send in as well. We're going to have a lot of blockers, but we're going to have a Trash the Town. Alright, Ty Joaquin, get the mana rebate. Fling plus draw a card off Ty Joaquin, sacking their 3 power creature to kill our 3 toughness creature. That is fine. There's Loan Shark, draw a card. Alright, so they're at 10. Multiple blockers here. If I Journey, I can only Trash the Town for 3. I only need to do it for 4, but I would like to get the +1/+1 counters and draw the cards. So I would like to do it for 4. If I send in, they double block and even Trash the Town puts this to 7 power, which isn't enough to deal with 2 4 power or 4 toughness blockers. I think I have to Journey here. They've got a response too, maybe? If they make attacks bad here, we just play a 3/3. But if this resolves, I think we are going to try to send in the potential 7/6 Paladin against the 5 toughness. Gross. Well, that card is pretty good here. Yeah, that's really gross. They get to Journey to Nowhere, their choice. Which means they just Journey the Paladin, we drop a 3/3 and pass. Yep. Alright. Oh, I got to double it too? Oh my god. Still not out of this. If we can get an Armadillo on the board, that's a lot of damage with the Trash the Town. But they've got 3 more cards in hand still, and we don't have Armadillo mana yet. That's the filthiest Return the Favor I've ever run up against. Vast majority of the time that I've played with or against this card, it's just too likely for it to end up getting stuck in your hand. Where you can lose games because you just didn't get to run it out. But it is super gross against Journey to Nowhere. That is not a land, but it's also not horrible. Poke for 3, because we're taking 6 on the crackback, maybe 8 if Ty comes in, and then here's the Steed. And this can block as a 4/4 first strike lifelink. If they have damage-based removal here, that's rough. Because they can change the damage with Ty. Yeah, that sucks. So even if I trash the town to buff this up, I mean, it's still less than 6 toughness, but even if I could make it bigger than that, they could add another, like, 4 damage off of tie. I might have to cycle this armadillo just to gain 3 at this point. Down to 6. They're going to try to desert us out of here. I think desert might kill us even with the cycle. No, they're not trying to kill us with a desert yet. They're at 7. They're still not dead to trash. We gotta try to play a blocker if we can. Top deck a land. We can't. But Desert Stew's not bad. It's only -3, -3. I can kill Ty with that. At this point, if I attack with Free Strider Commando, I have to cycle the Armadillo because they crack back for 6. So do I have to trash the town on blocks to make it a 5/5? Yes, I do. Kill Ty and block with a 5/5 commando. Or if they removal spell the commando, we have to just cycle to gain 3. Let me see your response to this. Okay. We remain at 3. They play a land. Can Armadillo for a desert play a desert, and then I can Desert Stew the Lone Shark? But I can also just Desert Stew Tie, hit them for 5, and cycle an Armadillo when they try to kill us on the crackback. I don't have a desert that deals 2 damage. If I could grab a desert that deals 2 damage with this Armadillo, try to get lethal here. Top decking blind. Like, obviously, if I just top deck a basic land, then it's gonna be better to just attack with Commando next turn and not to Desert Stew the Tie. But depending on what I draw, it might be good to Desert Stew Tie right now, so I have all my mana up next turn. I get to send in with Commando. They have no blocks, go to 2. This is a rough spot here, but I think I am going to try to kill Ty here. Rather than cycle Armadillo, kill Lone Shark. Well, top decked land. So I have 2 options. I can cast the Armadillo, in which case I'm dead to removal. Or I can hold on to the Armadillo. I mean, I guess I could just cast the Armadillo and pass. That way I'm not dead to removal, and if they don't hit removal or a creature, I can still send in a 7/7 next turn, threatening immediate lethal. But it feels like the best lines here are to just attack them down to 2 and cast the Armadillo, or attack them down to 2 and hold on to this. The safest line is certainly to just cast the Armadillo and pass. But that just gives them time to draw into an out. I'm going to go for the Coward's line here, I think. If they don't draw anything, we just attack with Armadillo next turn. Force the Lone Shark jump. Like, this is still pretty good on board. Well, if they've got the removal, we're dead. Well, no, never mind. At that point, we're not. Okay. Yeah, it would have had to been removal that gained them a life. Then they just remove commando, gain 1, go to 1, and then crack for 3. Ooh, by the skin of our teeth on that one, our opponent just really flooded out. Honestly, I think that returned the favor just completely like flipped the game in our opponent's favor by a ton. So we had to get like really, really lucky there where they had to get super flooded after that. So scary, scary start. But a pretty lucky ending there after having our own Journey to Nowhere exile both of our own creatures. That is the literal, I think, the best return the favor I've ever seen. And it was still barely not enough to hold us back, and we are now 1-0 heading into game 2. Here we are on the play for game 2. Nice little curve out here. Keykeeper into Commando and 2 putting a lasso on one of them. I think we do want to just get aggressive with this hand. Although I could just lasso the Keykeeper and then make a 5/5 Commando. Pop out turn 6. Alright, we trade 2 drops. Surveil with the pylons, find Giant Beaver. Okay, so that means I want to just play Commando and then play Beaver, and then play Lasso later. Played against red, black, and white, and there is their irascible Wolverine they'll cast next turn and cast something off the top, not for free, but as like an additional piece of card draw. Alright, something that costs 5 or more, let's go. That costs 2 mana, and it kills my Giant Beaver. Brutal. Solid, solid hit from RNGesus on that one. Ooh, speaking of solid hits, Outcaster Greenblade is pretty good here. I really don't like the Commando for Wolverine trade though, so I could just lasso right now. But it feels better to just Greenblade and get the Summoning Sickness out of here. Get our black-red source. I guess I could have sent in with all of the mana up, hoping they think we have a combat trick, but when you have a value creature like Wolverine or something that draws you a card when you play it, it's almost always just worth sending it in and forcing your opponent to spend their combat trick or anything like that, so I would have snap blocked, even against a bunch of open mana. Ty could be a problem, but Ty could also do nothing, so it's an interesting dilemma here between if we want to lasso Ty or lasso the Mystical Tether to bring back our Greenblade. I feel like because we re-up the Enter the Battlefield effect and get another must-kill threat back on the board immediately, it's better to just lasso their Mystical Tether. But we'll see. Depending on what's in their hand, we could get absolutely blown out for this. They could have something that works really well with Ty, just like a 3 damage removal spell here, kill the Commando, draw a card, just keep going from there. Probably take the Surveil this time, right? Yeah, now we've got all our colors super locked in. Bighorn, I'll keep you. So 2 things that can matter with the Ty. If they have removal that does exactly enough damage, and if they have like deserts to shoot us in the face. Those are the things that could really matter. Okay. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 toughness here. Bronco's going to keep drawing them cards. If they saddle it up, it's going to shoot us in the face as well. Bronco's terrifying. So I think I lassoed down the Wolverine, and anything else that blocks, we're pretty fine with the kind of trades that would happen. Let's put Lasso on the Free Strider Commando to force a double block on either. Send in... Honestly, send in both here. Tap down Wolverine feels like the play. Either one of these would kill both Ty and the Bronco if they block, and obviously if they don't block, they take 10. Go to 2 is the play, alright. Here's the Bighorn. They only have 7 power on board, but Ty could do something. They only have 1 card left in hand. Are they trying to do 16 to us in 1 turn? I guess they could try to hit like a 10 mana value card off of the Bronco after saddling it. This is life loss, not damage dealt, right? Yeah. Thank goodness. They cannot add to that with Ty. But they're going to try to Bronco us. Let's see. Land. All right. We lose nothing. Go to 14. They play the land. They have 2 cards in hand. Whatever they top decked and what was in their hand last turn. Okay. Stingerback Terrors the draw. So we can cast that if they somehow don't die here. Let's make sure all these are lethal threats. Make all of our creatures 2 power and send in the whole board, tap their 1 blocker. And there's the concession. We start things off 2-0, heading into game 3. All right, here we are for game 3. We can journey to nowhere their first threat and then chill for a bit. Makes me kind of want to mulligan, but I don't really want to go down a card. I'm just going to keep in top deck creatures and it'll all be good. Watch. I guess the mulligan's sort of free on this one since we don't have the black source for Desert's Dew yet, but if we draw into it, we kind of go up a card. So far, so good. We're hitting what we need. We're on the green-white mirror match. And now we have a 2-drop and a 4-drop, which would have been a snap keep. There's the Vengeful Townsfolk. We can take up the shield against that, or just tap it down. Cool. I could journey here and have the 4 for Bighorn next turn still. I don't think we spend a journey on a Townsfolk, though. There's just too many bombs in this format to want to do that immediately with this hand, because Journey's the only removal we know we have access to. Okay. Giant Beaver. Prairie Dog's the draw. So now I can at least kill Giant Beaver, which isn't quite a bomb, but it's still a pretty big deal. I can't tap it down with Keykeeper. It's going to keep making their board bigger. It's a 4/4 Vigilance, so we're never going to hit through it. We got to try to take up the shield that, or we just journey to it right now. I think I'd just journey it right now. That's a big enough deal to spend removal on, even though we might get bombed out. We have more removal in the deck to hopefully draw by the time they draw a bomb. Throw from the saddle, goodbye Prairie Dog. And that's it for the turn. Seems fine. Got an instant here. Is this like the Metamorphosis or something? Go Bighorns. I wouldn't hate them having the counterspell here, the common. That does not look to be the case. It is a Holy Cow. If they had the common blue counterspell there, we'd be getting out of their hand before they can make a 2/2 flyer off of it as well. Get like the 2-for-1. Could have played slow here to hold up Take Up the Shield when I play Bighorn to play around non-exile removal, but white has a bunch of exile removal and they're deep into white, so I don't even know if that would work out for us. There's their own Thunder Lasso, so basically nobody's going to block for the rest of this game, which is kind of a problem, because they are outracing us. Take Out the Shield can flip that race potentially, but we do need to draw some kind of non-land to really, really win the race here. I guess I just Keykeeper down the whatever has the lasso on it next turn, right? I guess that's better. Like, I could saddle up, make a goat, and take up the shield to gain 4, or I can just, like, keep her down wherever the lasso is. Take significantly less damage. But if they move the lasso to the townsfolk, I have to keep her down the townsfolk instead of the holy cow. And still take 3. But if they don't move it, then boom. I take 0. And I'm super happy. What is this, a take up the shield war? If it's a clear shot, that'd be kind of annoying. Reach for the sky? That's also kind of annoying. So I'm not going to kill the townsfolk, but I'll still keep the bighorn and gain a bunch. Well, the race has been evened out now. Heath doesn't really do anything, sadly. I mean, now I have to just keep her down the townsfolk, take 3 every turn, but we're dealing 4 every turn, so we, yeah, slightly win this race. Tiny bit more damage to them than they're doing to us. Obviously, if I draw nothing and they draw spells, they win. But if we draw equivalent spells, or neither of us draws anything, then I win. Okay, that's a spell. A 4/4 blocker isn't going to matter at all because they have a 6/5, so we play this pre-combat to saddle it up to get the token. So we don't need to hold it up. Okay. Having multiple vigilant creatures here is really, really nice for the trying to get lethal. Oh, they milled a Oko? Spooky. They've got 4 mana up still, 2 blockers up. If I tap one of them, they're dead on board. Feel like we go for it because we'll still have 3 blockers up. I mean, if they have something that makes it not lethal, because they've got the lasso too, there is still like a chance they lethal us on the crackback, but I think this is likely enough to lethal, then we just go for it. Go for the onboard lethal. Yeah, there's the concession. Still pretty scared there, still kind of a close one, but we are 3-0 in the end as we head into game 4. All right, here we are on the play for game 4. The Thunder Lasso is really awkward in this hand. But the Desert's Dew and the Lasso by the Law are really nice early removal to stay alive against pretty much anything. That's awkward. Unless you control 2 or fewer other lands. So I can still play this untapped next turn. I'm going to surveil this turn. Lonely Arroyo can go into the poop. Into the poop bin with you. Silver Deputy. Alright, I don't really want to Deserts do that, so it's probably fine I didn't Courtyard this turn. But I will have to do it this turn to keep playing on tap lands. Forest to the top of their deck. They're going to Jund us out here. Down to 19. There's Outcaster Greenblade. That I'll Deserts do. Although it does draw them another land even though they just played it, which is a little rough. So they'll still get some value out of it even if I kill it. It's going to be a 2/3 at minimum. They're likely to have much more than 1 desert in their deck, so I think I kill that. Giant beaver, right on time. Let's go, my friend. Start the party. There's the 4 color from our opponent. There's the mystical tether for the beaver. We're technically on 4 color as well, but the fact that it's all basics is what's pretty spicy over there. Well, I have no other threats to play, so I think I gotta just lasso their mystical tether to get a threat onto the board again. And I'll keep a mystical tether so that I do have a removal spell even after using the lasso, just in case of whatever nonsense they're gonna try to play. Bristly Bill, well, that's what we're going to tether then. But now Silver Deputy's going to be a 2-3 when they play this Bristling Backwood. The synergy, Bristling Backwoods Bristly Bill. The double bristle. They played Mirage Mesa on black though, so they need a double black here. Why did I get like freaking Geeset or something? A Bristly Bill's already like super bad for me. I can't just let this stick on board. I mean, I guess I can just buff the giant beaver and attack in for 5. They can double block it and I kill both creatures and then we've dealt with Bill. But I highly doubt they're gonna block the beaver. They'll just take the 5. And then I kind of have to tether Bill, and if they do have like a really good double black card like a Geeser or something, then I don't have the removal for that. Technically slightly more damage to put lasso onto the mercenary. I'm just gonna hope. Because again, Bill's already bad enough to definitely kill. They get a +1/+1 counter every time they play a land, and they can keep doubling all their +1/+1 counters later. Yeah, double the number of counters on each creature you control. I'm very cool with them spending removal on my mercenary token. That part's fine. They're running the double black, double red rare in a 4-color deck? Well, I mean, we top deck Journey to Nowhere, which is nice. But I'm still dumbfounded. That is impressive. That is also gone. Now we've just got the Indiana Jones Beaver. Just ride it all the way to victory if we can. Whip everybody out of the way. I'm so much happier to have just seen that 5/5 than a Gisa there. Because even if we didn't top deck Journey to Nowhere, we might have been able to try to outrace it, because we're still hitting for 5 a turn while they hit for 7 a turn at that point. This is going to be a little sad if they have instant speed removal, but it's definitely still worth the risk at 17. Because if they don't, obviously, strictly way better to get the +1/+1 counter. Ambush Gigapede. Alright, it wasn't exactly instant speed removal. So we do get the value. But Beaver's gone. But now we've got a big juicy townsfolk. THI double C townsfolk. They're top decking lands. They're dead in 2 swings. Oh my god, and we top deck a Seraphic Steed. Boom. Use a 3/3 first strike lifelink on blocks. And that is the game. We are 4-0 with some great luck starting this event off undefeated so far as we head into Game 5. All right, here we are for Game 5, and this is a pretty big one. If we can win at least 5 games, then we do leave the event with some of our gems back. But obviously the only way to get them all back is to get the 7-win run. I am not going to cycle this Armadillo. We've already got 4 out of the 6 mana to cast it later. Dock Warlock is the play from our opponent, so if they manage to open up a sealed pool with a ton of plotting, then that could be terrifying for us. If this Take Up the Shield were like a Journey to Nowhere instead, I think I would kill that. Speaking of, there's a Mystical Tether. I think I keep this despite having a 6-drop in hand, because everything else is 4 mana or less. And I would like to deal with Dock Warlock, kind of. So being able to deal with that and still have backup removal is nice. Although, yeah, it's going to be hard to not just plot the Paladin here, especially against open mana. We get to play around a counterspell for free. This is going to be Holy Cow, maybe? It's nothing. So they don't have a 5-mana plot card in their hand. Maybe a 6-mana plot? That would be insane. Yeah, I guess just no plot to go with the Dock Warlock there. Unless they just had a counterspell exactly, pretty much. Because otherwise I think they would want to use that mana to plot something at the very least. Maybe it was like instant speed removal they were playing it very safe with. Selvala, Eager Trailblazer. Well, thank you for tapping out. I am going to kill that, for sure. So let's just use our most expensive removal. Lassoed by the Law is more flexible. It can exile their enchantments to bring back one of our cards later, something like that, but Tether is cheaper, so we can end up double spelling with it later. More likely, like, Take Up the Shield and Tether in the same turn. I'm just going to go for maximum mana usage here. Again, I do think it is just going to be slightly more likely we end up with, you know, just a 5th land here so that we can cast a Tether and still hold up, Take Up the Shield to help protect something. Some position like that, mana-wise. Alright. Straight up destroy our 5/4, fair enough. And then 1 mana plot, thanks to Dock Warlock. Plot the 3/3 for 1 mana. It's cute. We are 1 mana away from Spinewood's Armadillo. I can just drop the Paladin here, full on. Pretty cool with that. Get that Summoning Sickness out of the way, no plotting involved. So there's 5 mana. If they can cast basically any creature that costs 4 or 5 mana, it's probably power 4 or greater, so they can draw the card off of their Outcast as well. I guess I could have just held on to a Mystical Tether here. That way they, like, cast a big creature, I Mystical Tether that in response to them trying to cast the Outcaster. That would have been a fine alternate line, but it obviously plays really bad if they just don't do that. But I guess I can always Mystical Tether Dock Warlock in their end step, worst case scenario. There's not like a horrific worst case scenario. But yeah, they don't have the power 4 or greater creature for us to tether here anyway. But yeah, this is a 5 mana instant if we need it to be. What is going on here? They really need a power 4 or greater creature? Oh no, they just really need to play more spells to make Outlaw Stitcher even bigger. Well, Mystical Tether, very, very good against tokens. So we are going to Green Blade into an untapped desert. That would be an additional Conduit Pylons. Then we can Mystical Tether this token, and it's gone forever. Feels pretty ideal. No attacks this turn because we have such excellent combat tricks. I don't want to attack until a turn in which I have some mana up for them. And I don't want to just attack into the token when I can Mystical Tether the token. and be pretty happy with that. Oh, I actually should have kept the forest. I just realized I only have one natural green source, so I can't actually cast Spinewood's Armadillo without another land right now. But that's probably fine, because I've got really good combat tricks to use next turn instead of casting Armadillo. But the land is definitely useful. Speaking of useful, Outcaster Trailblazer is a busted rare. Every creature they play with power 4 or greater draws them a card. Okay, so we're on Take Up the Shield, Trash the Town here, and we can Armadillo next turn. So 2 4-power creatures getting in. Because these look like solid attacks on board. This doesn't even necessarily mean tricks out of me, even though it 100% is tricks out of me. Okay. I can win this combat with a Take Up the Shield, but I can also use a Trash the Town here. It's already got Trample, so I can do this for 4 mana, then I still have 2 mana up to play around the counter unless you pay 2. And that 2 mana up also leaves Take Up the Shield up. So there are multiple really good advantages to doing this for just 4 here. And because the creature already has Trample, it's free to do so. I'm just going to put it all in the same card so I can Take Up the Shield that same card if they do anything weird. Maybe I should have put the card draw into the green blade so that if they try to play a bounce spell in response, that plays better. Yeah, this plays better against them using removal in response and letting me Take Up the Shield, but since they're on blue, I should have done this the other way around, I think. And actually, even if they do use a removal spell in response, like I still draw the green blade cards and I can still Take Up the Shield to Paladin. Yeah, I 100% should have just put the draw 2 cards on the green blade. I've already got the Conduit Pylons for red sources, so I'm just going to get my second green naturally here. Is what that was about with the Mirage Mesa instead of Jagged Barrens. The 1 point of damage from the desert is going to be the same no matter when we play it, so I can play this as my last land per game and still get the max damage value out of it. I still like playing them before untapped lands on turns where I don't need that mana untapped, but I'll play other tap lands first and be pretty fine with it. Alright, back to the combat trick. Hoopla. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. If I play an untapped land, I can Take Up the Shield and cast Armadillo, but then I don't have a 5-power green blade attacking into the 5 toughness Cactarantula, which I would kind of like here. I guess I can do so with Mercenary. Yeah, no, Mercenary means we can go ahead and Take Up the Shield and cast Armadillo. Play an untapped land this turn. That's certainly better. Alright. Whoa. As long as auto tapper's not weird. Oh, I guess I'm playing untapped forest. It doesn't matter anyway. It could have mattered. If my untapped lands were plains, tapping out of the green would have been so bad there. Alright, devastating combat trick wombo combos this game. I could just not play Armadillo because I'm already ahead on board, just in case they have a board wipe. But it's not like they're dead on board on my next swing or anything, so getting more creatures out does still speed up the clock. And is better if they are trying to just cast more creatures of their own to trade with. I think the only board wipe in this format is the Mythic Rare out of white. gives one of your creatures indestructible and then destroys the rest for like 7 mana. It might even be instant speed. It is pretty gross if they have it. I think it's generally just not right to play around board wipes in formats where there's only like 1 or 2 board wipes though. Because again, the odds of like you just playing slow enough for them to recover by holding extra creatures in your land are much more likely than them having specifically the one like mythic rare board wipe in the set. Right? Like if I didn't play the Armadillo here and then I don't end up finding lethal in the next turns, Railway Brawler is the exact kind of card that could randomly flip the game heavily in our opponent's favor. So if I play Jagged Barons pre-combat, Greenblade will hit them for 1 extra damage, but if I play it post-combat, they won't know that they're taking 1 more damage out of nowhere, and they might let like the 8/7 trample through go to 1 and then just die to Jagged Barons. I don't know. I don't know if this is right, but that's how I'm going to play it. I'm going to go for surprise 1 damage rather than extra power toughness on Greenblade immediately. Because now they might just go chump chump take 8 and be like, that is how I maybe come back. And then I can be like, surprise, no, it's not Jagged Barons. Really feels like unless they have a good instant here, they're not going to have the time to stabilize there. Endless Detour is a good instant. And even with that, they kind of have to chump chump here. They could double block and kill the Greenblade, take 7, go to 2. Yeah, I think I have to keep a Trampler on top here. Even though we know they're gonna Railway Brawl all over the place. I guess we're just going for a wide board state, right? We want to instantly play the Commando so that it gets rid of the Summoning Sickness for next turn. So even if they have like 2 10/10s or something, we just hit them with 1 2-power creature. Find the lethal. Yeah, so they have to decide between Chump Chump and double block kill Greenblade, which I'm pretty certain is just double block kill Greenblade. Which does mean that pre or post combat Jagged Barons would have played the exact same way, because they would still double block kill a 6/6 Greenblade here. So I don't know if the whole fancy Jagged Barons surprise damage thing was even worth or not. I guess if they do double block and kill the Greenblade, then we get to keep the Barons in our hand and still have that surprise 1 point of damage, because they're going to be at 2 life here, so maybe they let the 1/1 Mercenary in next turn, then they go to 1, then they die to Jagged Barons. Or maybe they left the game. They've already closed Arena. Alright, and I believe they just left the game because they timed out of blocks, which let all the damage in for them to die. Again, they probably lose that game no matter what from there, because their best play is probably kill at least the Greenblade. So it's not just like lose the board and still be against all this, which means they go to 2. Then I play a Commando. I still have 3 creatures on board against an opponent at 2 life. If they play Railway Brawler and another blocker, they can block 2 creatures, which is the Armadillo and the Commando, take 1 from the Mercenary, go to 1, and then die to Jagged Barons. Now, if this card in hand, plus their top deck was another creature, and they were both 3 mana or less, then our opponent might have been able to have 3 blockers and barely survive, but their odds were super, super bad there. So we are 5-0, getting some of our entry fee back no matter what, and having a positive win rate through this event. So, solid spot to be, but the Arena Open is kind of all or nothing. We really do got to get to those 7 wins to get the only prize that matters, qualification for day 2. So we'll see if we can keep it up heading into round number 6. This looks like a really good starting hand. The only thing I don't love about this is being on the draw, but the hand is quite good. I think we want to Bandit into Paladin, but I could Prairie Dog into... Yeah, this is interesting, because I could Prairie Dog into Townsfolk into Paladin, and because one of those is a plot spell, that guarantees we're putting 1 counter on the Prairie Dog at some point. I won't be playing a 5-4 as quickly, but I will be just slamming a bunch of stuff onto the board. I kind of like going wide here. See if we get an untapped land. We do hit an untapped land. I do already have 4 lands in my hand here, though. I don't want to flood out, really. But the fact that I need to play another tapped land somewhere into the curve is kind of awkward with the Prairie Dog line. If I play the Bandit, then I can still curve out here, even without this land. Like even playing a tap land at some point on this curve. Oh, I'm gonna do the Prairie Dog thing. This could be wrong. It might just be 2-mana removal no matter what I do. And then it's the same curve either way. Oh no! Ornery Tumblewag. Well, that ruins my curve no matter what I choose to do. Now we just play a Mystical Tether this turn, period. Because otherwise they play another creature and get a permanent +1/+1 counter onto that creature. The only way to make sure that Tumblewag doesn't give them any additional value is to kill it right now. So that is worth doing. Okay, if we do hit the untapped land, like I said before, we will be able to plot Paladin next turn, but this is where we do get punished for ditching this Plains, is that my 4th land is a tap land, so I might have to just play a Townsfolk. Okay, that's a tap land too, but it's a red tap land, which is even better. Prairie Dog for Grizzly's honestly not that bad. If I play a Bandit, I could try to hardcast Stingerback Terror next turn. But I can do that if I top deck a land as well, because I have a Conduit Pylons. Let's just keep curving a little bit. I don't know if we're just ever going to cast this Bandit at this rate. Gross. Yeah, throw from the saddle, very, very strong on a mount creature like that. But our little lifelinker's putting in a lot of work for us. Now we're just going to plot things a couple turns in a row, and that's going to make the Prairie Dog even bigger lifelinker. Stingerback Terror is 3 to plot, so it's actually like more efficient to plot the Paladin. The next turn I can plot the Stinger or hardcast the Stinger. And if I plot the Stinger next turn, I get to do that and cast a 2-drop. But we might be in a position where we just want to hardcast the big flyer immediately as an option too. Okay. How is the Prairie Dog for Eric's trade? It's not great, but the Prairie Dog's not going to get any bigger anytime soon, because we're definitely casting a spell from our hand this turn. I guess Prairie Dog just threatening to trade into the Grizzly is still better on blocks than it is to just send Prairie Dog in and trade into Eric's on attacks here. Yeah. Does Keykeeper matter a ton on this board? Probably not enough to not just play a massive threat. Just hardcast the massive threat. Cactarantula, well, I could dump my hand if I draw a cheap enough card, and there we go. Dump the hand and they can't block terror well. Prairie Dog back at it again, being very sad. You know how it is. Prairie Dog's like, please don't cast spells, and here I am casting 3 spells. Sorry, my friend. We're not sending in Paladin because it just trades into Grizzly. Alright, they're down to 4, and I can just Keykeeper down the Cactarantula and kill them next turn. This is our first Stingerback Terror game, but I like it. Oh, there it goes. It's now very dead. 3 blockers on board. If I Keykeeper, they're dead? I mean, they're dead on board, right? Block, 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 take 3, get trampled for a tiny bit. If I tap Cactarantula, they don't have a spell in hand, they're dead. But if I tap Cactarantula, they do have a spell in hand, that's going to be really bad. Cactarantula is my only option for something to tap, though, because their other creatures are mounts. And by tapping the 5 toughness creature, I make sure that trample is lethal here. Get trampled for 1, take Exactsies. Take Exactsies, okay. Actually, no, it's overkill. It's 1 damage overkill. Alright. Another solid lucky game there. That's our first game, showing off the Stingerback Terror, and it was just a full-on 7/7 flying trample, which makes it so big it gets above the biggest common green blocker. It doesn't get over the 7/7 reach ward 3 thing. That's one of green's uncommons, but gets over the Cactarantula, so really excellent work from Stingerback Terror, and we are now 6-0. We just need to find a single victory in the next 3 games to make it into the Arena Open Day 2, so got our fingers crossed here that we can get there, but we will find out soon enough. It's time for round 1 of the final battle. Here we are for the final boss. This could be the last game of Magic for today if we can find a victory here. We're on the draw with really good mana. We've got our green and our white super locked in, and we have the pylons for any of our splashes. It's a little sketchy the amount of tapped lands we have here, but I think the spells are really, really good. It's a definite keep. I don't think you can argue to mulligan this one away. Alright, let's get the Prairie Dog down. Get the Conduit Pylons here so we can Desert Stew next turn. Trash the town. I don't hate it, but we already have Take Up the Shield for a pretty good combat trick, and I've only got 2 creatures in the hand right now. I think I would rather try to dig towards more creatures than keep that Trash the Town right now. Right, because like I have a combat trick and a lasso. Like I have multiple supplementary cards that are just about making our creatures a bit better. At times, I don't really want a 3rd card that is somewhat similar to all those. There's the Desert Stew. They missed lands, though, so they just get a treasure token off of that. That is unfortunate for our opponent. So I can get a Thunder Lasso on the board, or I can get a single +1/+1 counter on the Prairie Dog. It's probably better to get the Thunder Lasso mana investment out of the way here. I guess I can get the counter onto the Prairie Dog and hold up a Desert Stew, but we don't even know if our opponent can cast spells next turn because they just missed on the Naturalist. I mean, they can cast 1 for sure from the treasure, but probably not what they wanted to do. Yeah, they're 3 color at least. Green, blue, red. They're 4 color. There's a Plains. Colossal Rattleworm is the play. Okay, we have 2 deserts on board. Here's the 3rd to make Deserts do -4. Oh, it's already -4/-4. This makes it -5/-5, so we can kill Rattleworm without even getting into combat with it, which is good, because I can't get into combat with it. I have to tap it down. I guess I could tap the tapped creature, but then they would never choose to block. Yeah, we gotta just get rid of the Rattleworm. So if they have Take Up the Shield, or sorry, if they have Snakeskin Veil, they can already protect Rattleworm, whether or not their mana's untapped, because they have a treasure token. So I want to wait till Prairie Dog triggers. Actually, can I full control this here? I wonder if there's a way to have Prairie Dog resolve and then Desert Stew after it. Oh yeah, okay, cool. Well then I'm not even going to let them have the untapped mana here. I didn't know if I had to maybe wait till their their upkeep to do that. In which case they could have other combat tricks to save the Rattleworm. Luckily, I don't have to wait on that. Spinewood's Armadillo. Alright. Well, I've still got the ability to lasso that down. It is 3 mana per time I do that. Deal a third of the life total here and then hold up a Take Up the Shield to protect Prairie Dog while putting another counter on it. This might be wrong, but I do really like how much pressure I'm putting on their life total here. And then Keykeeper to get more damage in is going to be sweet. One, two, three. And Prairie Dog gets bigger. They're down to 8, facing a 5/5 Prairie Dog now. If they have white removal to exile Prairie Dog, that sucks. But if they have green removal to try to shoot it for a bunch of damage, we have the Take Up the Shield. So there's a hard Bristle Bandit. And there's the pass. They're just under so much life total pressure. They can't send anybody in anymore. If I lasso down the Armadillo, I don't have the mana to cast any creatures this turn. I can instead cast a Beaver and a Keykeeper for the turn. And then next turn I'm very open to using Lasso and Take Up the Shield. I think I'm going to cast the Beaver. Keykeeper will take a turn off here. And they're going to use the Colossal Rattleworm to find a desert, fix some mana here probably. Yep, there they go. We know they have a double blue card in there and a red one, so yeah, Conduit Pylons is probably like the MVP land for their deck. Ooh, Badlands Revival at Cactarantula up here. It's extremely good. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 mana. I can spend 3 on the Armadillo Ward, 2 on a Keykeeper tap, and 2 on a Take Up the Shield. So this feels like Lasso the Armadillo, Keykeeper the Naturalist, send in and Take Up the Shield to Cactarantula. Feels like the play. That way I don't give them any cards off Cactarantula, and I kill one of their big threats. They're down to 4, facing Lasso and Keykeeper. We're at 32 life, by the way. But they're definitely ahead on cards, so I don't think that'll really matter if they manage to stabilize. Bonnie freaking Paul, hello. It's annoying. Wait, they left themselves dead on board if they don't have a 2-drop creature here. Oh, I should have blocked. That was a free block. But they decided to be dead on board? Okay. All right. That was almost, honestly, that was really, really close to a stabilization from our opponent. But they really wanted to draw the card, so they swung slightly too hard there. And just had one too few blockers. Yeah, I feel like if they didn't attack there, we were... I mean, we probably still had a pretty good chance of winning, but definitely wasn't near the 100% that it was off that swing. Yeah, my life really flashed before my eyes when they hit the Bonnie. But it doesn't matter. Thunder Lasso has been a big overperformer today. Really just getting a lot of damage in that game. That was a weird one too. We had to keep paying for the ward to get extra damage to keep the pressure on them rather than playing more creatures when they had that armadillo down to sneak in a bunch of damage there. All right. Well, there we go. Hopefully we didn't expend all of our good luck during day one, but that's how it is sometimes. We get the full 7-0 completely undefeated run for our qualification to day number 2 of the Arena Open. We'll take one last peek at the deck. Really, we just opened up a very solid sealed pool. Again, not the most insane one I've ever seen, but still quite good. The Steed and the Stingerback Terror being our bombs. Those were excellent cards, and our fixing was ridiculously good. The Green Blade, the Bandits, the Armadillo, and just really solid removal spells out of the white, the Tether, their Journey to Nowhere, and the Lassoed by the Law, and even some of the filler stuff I didn't know if I wanted in at all, like the Thunder Lasso, just ended up really overperforming there. So very, very solid stuff. Oh, speaking of having really good fixing, another very important part that let me splash in all this nonsense was all of these lands. We had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 relevant lands helping us mana fix in this deck. This one was just a desert, just cause buff Green Blade, get searched by Armadillo, stuff like that. But all of these lands for fixing, kind of wild. Yeah, really, really good mana for this kind of deck in our sealed pool, which is part of what brought us there as well. So that does it. We're officially qualified for the second Outlaws of Thunder Junction Arena Open Day 2 event. So I'll see you all tomorrow for Day 2 draft number 1 if you are interested in that. But that's going to end today's video. As always, I'd like to thank my patrons and YouTube members for their support, as well as you for watching the video. If you enjoyed it and you're interested in seeing more, you can always like, comment, and subscribe to tell the YouTube algorithm to send you some more in your recommended feed. If you'd like to catch me live, you can check out the Twitch channel in the link in the description below. And if you'd like to support the channel directly, you can check out the Patreon link in the description below. But other than that, as always, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again soon for some more Magic Arena.